Okay.
I'd like everyone to think back to a time where they've had to move house. This experience can either be very exciting or very emotional. For my family, we have experienced a lot of stress when it's come to moving. The inconvenience and the time constraints have really put a burden on our moving experience. If we were aware of the Big Steel Box company and their services, our moving experience would have not only been easier, but happier. This is all attributed to what compares or puts you in front of your competitors. It's not about what you do, it's about why you do it. Hello everyone, my name is Edward. I have Kobe and Madison, and we are Spectrum Consulting, and we're here today to talk about your growing pains. So your current strategy is you provide great customer service by leveraging shipping containers for the use in the residential and commercial markets in Canada.
So what's holding you back? In our analysis of your company, we determined your primary issue was a stagnancy in your competitive advantage in the market. This is a direct correlation to a disconnect in your current strategy and your core values as a company. It is vitally important that you solve this issue, as without a strong competitive advantage in the market, you risk becoming complacent and losing consumers to your competitors. Effects of this primary issue are seen in a lack of awareness of your company, as well as your susceptibility to the volatile nature of your markets. In terms of your lack of awareness, Big Steel Box currently operates and markets in the outskirts of a city, without marketing in the central area in which consumers come into and take the message out. When you're marketing in only an outskirt, it is far more difficult and inefficient to get your message across to the other remaining communities and outskirts. In terms of the volatile nature of your market, it is no secret that real estate and commercial markets are highly volatile. There's a great deal of fluctuation, and because most of your business is in Western Canada, the economic factors that would impact and highly influence these markets are very much the same, leading to a difficulty in adaptability and flexibility to these fluctuations. Our analysis was broken down into three main components. We looked at the real estate market, brand and service awareness, and the student market. Taking a look at the real estate market, you reported a 20% growth in both your 2017 and 2018 summer quarters. However, your 2019 summer quarter showed had more difficulty. Your marketing team had attributed this to a downturn in the housing market. However, this is inconsistent with data from 2018, in which the market had dropped significantly from its high in 2017. We did research into this, and we believe that the reason for your growth had been an increase in demand for your commercial restoration services. As we remember, there's a significant amount of forest fires in both 2017 and 2018 that would have increased a demand for your restoration and crisis management services. Therefore, even though the market is on the rise, however, it is not the main factor that attributed to your growth. Taking a look at your brand and service awareness, aesthetically, Big Steel Box takes pride in ensuring that its shipping containers look as clean and aesthetically pleasing as possible. While this is fantastic for looks, it is not necessarily the most beneficial for your overall branding and service. There is a low brand recognition as a result of this, which has been attributed to difficulty in attracting potential client bases and new customers, as well as a difficulty in understanding how shipping containers are portable and they're used in moving houses and the convenience that they offer their competitive advantage. Finally, in taking a look at the student market, there are unfortunately numerous barriers to entering this. Firstly, the boxes are quite large and difficult to maneuver into student campuses. This as well, students are under external time constraints in terms of their move-in and move-out dates, which means that they lack the ability to feel the full benefit of your competitive advantage of increased time to set up and unload and pack up. As well, students have prioritize affordability as one of their main factors. You believe that your potential and your current client is roughly in a financial situation somewhere between using a U-Haul service and a full service move. Students, unfortunately, we do not have very many financial resources, and therefore you would have to lower your prices to remain competitive, resulting in lower margins, not necessarily a cost-benefit analysis to your advantage.
So I'd like to just point out the big elephant in the room is the opportunity to go into student storage. The reason why we classified this as the elephant in the room is the fact that this goes against your strategy. You provide the freedom of time with moving. Students don't need time. They have to move in hours to just days. So by dropping a box down and providing them time is just inefficient for your business model. It's also impractical. Think about space on universities. Trying to fit a big steel box somewhere on the university for a student to be able to use is just not practical for the university. The universities aren't going to like this. We're beneficial here at the campus in the Okanagan that we have a bit more room than others, but think about downtown Vancouver where we have UBC. They're just not going to be able to make this work. The students want affordability. What you provide would be in the cost between the prices of U-Haul's options and the other moving companies that provide full service. And so students won't go towards your product based on price. We'd have to make it so affordable that your margins will just be so small. And it limits us on the scope. It doesn't help us target your current issue of the stagnant competitive advantage. By pushing our scope to students, we really restrict being able to create awareness to your other clientele and customers. So with that off the table, we've considered 3 different alternatives. We have your marketing and expansion plan, which can increase your reach across Canada, which can help you be able to leverage your values onto your customers. And by expanding to Eastern Canada, you will not just be able to increase your market, but you'll also be able to increase your stability within the volatile market. Currently, you have a lot of eggs in one basket. Being in BC, you have a lot of locations in BC. The downfall due to the residential, the real estate sales was greatly affected in BC, and that's why you received such a huge hit. By being able to expand across Canada, you will be able to have a more stable real estate market. For the student study spaces, by providing study spaces for students, there is a great demand for this. A lot of campuses do not provide enough study spaces, and so this would be something that universities might be interested in. So what this contrasts with the actual student storage is universities, that would be a burden for them. This will be an opportunity for universities, so they will actually want your your shipping containers on the campus. The other great thing about student study spaces is they're portable. So in the summer months when there isn't such a great demand, you can just remove them from the campus and create that space again. And then we have our housing containers. We understand that you've dabbled a bit in housing containers. And this is great to be able to focus on your restoration programs and going to more remote areas where you provide the offices already. You can also provide the housing too. You have the resources and capabilities by already initially doing the offices that you can easily make a house as well. So with that being said, we came up with 3 criteria to be able to choose the correct path for your growth. Brand awareness was huge in the sense that we do want you to have a connection with your customers and really make sure they understand your services. The feasibility, whether you're financially feasible or you currently have the resources and capabilities, and it fits into your strategy. And we understand that you are very family-based, you want to do good, you want to be involved in the community, so we really want to make sure that our growth strategy works with your values. All right, so for the marketing and expansion, we really want to make sure that it fits in with the awareness of your customers. By marketing properly, you can really connect your service to your customers. This will be feasible, as you have stated. You have the financials to be able to expand to the Maritimes and Ontario. And it will fit into your values, as it will connect your customers to your community-oriented, family-based values. For student spaces, awareness will be restricted to the university campuses, and it will not be passed on to your other clientele. However, this is feasible, as you do have the resources and capabilities of producing these study spaces, and it does fit into your values as you're helping the community by helping the students. For housing containers, it restricts your awareness because you're focusing on remote areas, and the clientele will not translate to your other customers. Feasibility, you currently are making the study spaces, so you will be able to make the housing containers. And for values, it does help with some of your values as you're helping these the remote areas. However, you're not really having such a huge impact in your community. And so we just chose marketing and expansion as it checks all the boxes for awareness, feasibility, and values.
So just diving into our recommendation, we've come up with 2 key ideas for this, our marketing and expansion. Obviously, we want to restructure the marketing plan. This involves going into cause marketing, partnering up with more charities such as the BC Children's Hospital Foundation, which we believe is one great opportunity in mind, as well as becoming more involved with the community, reaching out to sports teams such as areas in Abbotsford and Port Coquitlam that have different teams such as hockey, baseball, and soccer. And we want to reach out to them in terms of tournaments or even just sponsoring them to put our logo on their jersey, just so when they're moving from city to city, our logo is there with them and we still have a presence. Even if it's still that small little emblem, it carries some weight to it. And as well as billboards, with people in terms of the real estate market, they are going to have to travel to locations that they're interested in. For instance, if people are looking at moving from Vancouver to Kelowna, they will have to drive the Coquihalla. And so we want to position ourselves with billboards, so when they're driving up there, they have that thought in their mind like, oh, how are we going to move and what are we going to use to move our stuff up there? They'll see the big steel box up on the billboard with our minimalistic style and know, oh, we can use this for when we're deciding to settle down in our new location. And as well as real estate agents, we understand that you currently have a partnership with those agents, but we want to make sure that we highlight this and elevate the relation with them in terms of they're the ones that are direct connections with these clients and will allow us to get the first opportunity to advertise our product to them and helping them with their stress and alleviate the pressure. And in terms of the expansion, we're looking into the Greater Toronto area in Ontario. We want to just first start off with satellite locations, opposed to just setting up more full-service stores in that area, as we want to just take our time and make sure that we're fully aware of the surroundings before investing our money into that. And for the implementation in phase 1, this has to do with our marketing. So in terms of the resources that we'll be utilizing are just the billboards, finding those in the best locations and putting them up, as well as $25,000. This will be going towards the billboard costs and the cause marketing costs as well. And we're projecting this to take around 1 to 2 years for our first phase to finish up, to hopefully get some of the projected outcomes of having an increased market awareness in both the communities and major cities such as Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto, where there's the most dense population. And just having a higher consumer presence, this relates to cause marketing, showing people that we're caring about the community and having something that they can relate to. And so diving deeper into the timeline of each activity, so we want to contact the youth sports team and the charities, as well as research billboards all at once prior to talking to real estate agents, as these are connections that we haven't previously established, and it may take time to fully get into contact with them and have time to sit down with them and discuss our ideas and what our agreements will be. And in terms of contacting charities, to set up a support logo with the BC Children's Hospital Foundation, it requires a one-time minimum $5,000 donation. And with that, we can use a specific logo that we can post on our boxes and billboards that says, with the big steel box logo, and then in support of the BC Children's Hospital Foundation. So when people drive by and see that logo, they're aware of who we are and who we're sponsoring, and that we care for such an emotional connection like children. And it's also an opportunity that U-Haul hasn't actually explored, and they're currently not donating to this charity specifically, so that would help differentiate us even more from some of the competitors. And real estate agents, we're doing this a little later, again, as we've had those relationships, and we've estimated about a year, but this could take 2 years, just in terms of finalizing a partnership agreement and making sure that it fares both to our side and their side. And just because of legal and issues like that, legal issues, that may take some extra time, so we just want to make sure that we're making the most fair agreement for both ends of the table. And going into phase 2 of our implementation, this goes into the expansion into the Greater Toronto Area. So one of the biggest resources is the project funds. You have told us that you have the funds to expand into the Eastern Canada and Maritimes, and this is a great opportunity for us to take advantage of. And a great resource is having those 3 locations in Toronto. It makes it a little easier to transition more into that area, as it's not a new unfamiliar territory such as Quebec or the Maritimes. We haven't set up any locations there, and we're not totally aware of different cultural changes or language barriers as well. And in time, we want this phase 2 to take about 8 to 10 years. This is more of our long-term goal. We just want to be careful with proceeding into more locations and making sure that we're following regulations. And in terms of outcomes, we're hoping to get our increased market presence within Canada by establishing ourselves not just densely in the Western Canada, but also into the Eastern Canada section, specifically in Ontario, which has been noted to have the highest sales for real estate. And breaking that down again, these are 4 cities that we're currently interested in. The blue line that represents where we just left off, so we're expecting to have between after the first year to the 3rd year to set up our satellite location in Windsor. And again, these are all rough estimates. If an economic downturn or some kind of disaster event occurs, it's not the best representation of the opportunity and capabilities of that location. So it may take 3 years in case, just so we're able to get accurate statistics and data about the potential. And that goes further with all the rest of the cities. And so just wanted to show you a quick map again to represent where you currently are. As we've noted, that you're very densely in the British Columbia areas around Vancouver and Kelowna. And then as you're moving towards east, you guys are really sparsely spread out and have only 3 locations in Ontario, 2 around the Toronto, and then 1 between Manitoba and the Ontario border. So what we're looking for with these 4 cities is we've done our research to find that these 4 cities are the most densely populated ones outside of the Toronto areas in terms of suburb environments. So we believe that these locations are optimal to move into. And just in terms of performance benchmarks, we just want to make sure that, again, what we're doing is working in terms of marketing, the social media statistics, seeing the clicks and where people are looking at, as well as a referral survey, just to give us a start to where people are finding out information about us. And financial sustainability, these 2 are quite related because we want to measure the revenue in terms of how much Ontario affects us, and specifically like the Ontario statistics, how they affect our growth rate in terms of sustainability, and if that helps us if a downturn does occur. And demand forecasting, just making sure that the projected sales that we are seeing for real estate in Ontario matches what we are currently seeing with our own products.
So with any solution, it's never perfect, so there are a little bit of uncertainties. However, if an economic downturn was to occur, by expanding, as I previously stated, it spreads us a little thinner, so then we take the hit less in a more dominant area, such as the BC market that we have recently, you have recently experienced. For barriers to entry in the Maritimes, we're withholding from Maritimes, as Kobe stated, is the reasons for language barriers, legal issues within Quebec. We do not want the disconnect by avoiding Quebec and having you in the Maritimes, as well as being on Western and more middle Canada. And if expansion does fail, you take that as a learning lesson, and you really you start expanding more in the Western Canada, focusing on the marketing and just making sure your values are translated to your customers. And with all of that said, I'd like us just to think back to moving, where it can be emotional and it can be a very exciting experience. However, let's just take away the stress from the customers, not by what you do, but by why you do it. Thank you for your time, and I'd like to open the floor for the questions.
I really want to understand more about the students. Okay, so I appreciate all this other, and you're right in some ways. Other ways not. Sudbury's a mining town, mining's going down. Windsor's an auto town, auto's going down. I'm not sure why I would even go there, but that's what's going on. What about students? Take me back and talk to me about putting a container as a portable classroom and walk me through that.
Can I just ask you to restate what you were talking about Ottawa and
Windsor's an auto town. Automotive's turning down. Sudbury's a mining town, it's turning down. Peterborough is a cannabis town, maybe. And Kingston's a university town.
I just want to first touch on that in the sense, are you talking about the real estate markets or just
Real
in
estate,
general?
industry in general, economies, they're subject to a lot of problems.
Yeah, because for our analysis, we actually found out the real estate is increasing in those towns. That's why we find them optimal. Since you are 60% in that market, we do really want to focus on that real estate. However, and I do agree. So we've actually, if we go on to study spaces there, we did do an implementation into the study spaces. We realized that it was your team's goal to find an opportunity in the student spaces or student market. So we have dove into this and looked at this opportunity. So for the pros, as I said, it does satisfy your team's goal. It uses your strengths of your business, so you have the resources and capabilities to be able to implement this. And it does help you with your values in community and showing your family and the need that you want to do good. However, the cons is it's contingent on a deal with the universities. The universities will really have to want this. You have to make it something that they need over their current solution of study spaces, of building study spaces and classrooms together in a building, and really emphasize why they would want portable study spaces where you can remove them in the summer months when there's low demand for them, compared to them just building their own building. Obviously, this is a more affordable option for them, so we can lead with that. If you go to the next slide for the implementation. So you had a few questions on how you would be able to implement this. We suggest that you start off with a single study space, a single container you put on UBCO's campus. And it's quite easy to regulate how often it's used as students book the study spaces. So you could see what the demand really is for this. If the demand is there and universities do want this, then you negotiate terms with UBCO for the following year. And if we go into phase 2, we start off with UBCO and we will make our way to other campuses. As I previously stated, there was some risks with other campuses. We are beneficial here to have space on our campus. However, other campuses might not have the room or be able to expand, as fortunately we are here. So we would be targeting some universities who have current space maybe to be able to create these study spaces. However, we want to target smaller universities that are growing as well. Does that answer your question?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Can you guys go a little bit more in depth with what you mean with your cause marketing alongside with your?
So what we believe with cause marketing, as we know, we understand that you're with multiple charities already, but with the Children's Hospital Foundation, it's a foundation that multiple people can relate to from all across the globe. It's an idea, it's a charity that the majority of the population can connect to in some way or another. And it also helps with just spreading our logo and having an association between a major company and ourselves to kind of combine and create a better awareness through that. And as well as through holiday times or some other holidays such as like Christmas or Thanksgiving, we're looking to do social media activity where people repost one of our big Steel Box posts on either Facebook or Instagram, and we do a minimum donation to a certain area of the foundation, whether that's a certain type of cancer or cystic fibrosis.
Cool, thanks.
On that side of things, I would say that we just recently partnered up with United Way, so
Okay.
we just did a pretty big thing with them. So I don't know if we're sort of going to be switching anytime soon. I really like the presentation. It kind of touches on a lot of things we're doing today, to be honest with you. We're very close to opening a branch in Ottawa in the next month or so. The next 3 or 4 months, we're probably going to open a branch in Maritime in Halifax. So a lot of these things that you guys are proposing, we already have in place. I'm curious why you wouldn't pick somewhere like Ottawa as opposed to Windsor or Peterborough. As well as with Toronto, I would say that you guys say that you want like just a yard there right now, a satellite yard. We have one in Mississauga right now. And the research that we did, we think we need approximately 8 to 10 yards in Toronto to sort of satisfy it. And that's why we don't want to go there yet. It's such a big project that we're going to go along the other areas. So I do appreciate the recommendations. What I really like about the presentation is how you started it with the stress, touching on sort of that whole customer journey and profile. We put a lot of effort and focus on that, reducing stress, making it as easy as possible with convenience. So I really love how you started with it, and I really like how you guys sort of had different options than the other presenters so far, and sort of ideas a little bit outside the box. So that's really my feedback for now.
Was there a question you wanted answered on that?
Just that Ottawa one. Why not pick Ottawa as opposed to Peterborough, Windsor, and all those other areas? Just a real estate market?
Yeah, so we're looking for real estate and commercial when we expand out east. The real estate market is definitely huge in the Ontario area, so that's why we're thinking of moving out there. The reason we didn't want to go full into having a stationary or a solid sort of location, and we wanted to go for the satellite locations, was just because we wanted to ease into the transition. We didn't want to go full out and then find out that that you went too early and it's backfired and you've lost that amount of money. We wanted to make sure it was a smooth transition. The reason why we avoided Ottawa was just because it's so close to Quebec. We assumed there might be language barriers. Also, in the module, we talked about you currently focus on the outskirts compared to the cities themselves. It's hard to have your storage containers in the cities, so you focus on the outskirts. So we were looking at outskirt locations where you could really have a presence and breach into that market before you make the dive into these cities. As your competitors are already there, we want to make sure that you come in, really get your morals and values out to your customers before you dive into the depths of really competing in those big, dense cities.
Thank you.
My question is, so I'm just a little bit confused as far as you're looking to expand that with marketing. So are you gonna expand your marketing just on the East Coast, or are you gonna expand it everywhere? By adding billboards, that kind of thing, more primarily on the East Coast, or are you still gonna focus on BC and all the other provinces?
So we would absolutely be continuing to focus on BC and our remaining provinces we are already in. However, as we are moving into the eastern markets, we're going to ensure that that is a particular priority. Overall, we believe that you need to increase your marketing and change your targeting so that your brand message and service is more spread out and more efficiently communicated. However, we would be placing a priority on the eastern market.
Okay, and who's your target audience for this marketing?
So our target audience would be the residential that you have already worked on for both moving and storage, as well as commercially, as we did see that a big part of your business was coming from commercial efforts for both restoration, storage, construction, and other areas of commercial.
And you've identified that that affordability is the most important factor to market to those people? Is that
We've
what you're
determined
focused on?
affordability has been the key factor for students.
Okay.
So for students, the reason why it is quite difficult is because affordability is their top priority along with time constraints, and that balance means that they wouldn't feel the full benefit of your competitive advantage and your differentiating factor in the marketplace. To your other clients, and affordability is something they're looking at. However, they would have more of a budget to be able to pay for that convenience of having a storage unit placed and having more time to do that.
And that ends question period.